The low point of the golf swing being before the ball is a worldwide epidemic that defines poor play. That's a statement from Stack and Tilt founder Andy Plummer. And contact, or control of the low point, is the first fundamental in the Stack and Tilt system. So I'm not in my regular studio this week for the video. I'm actually filming on location at Stack and Tilt Camp in Spain. We've got this wonderful weather and we've got these great students behind me hitting balls with the Stack and Tilt authorized coaches, been working on their game all week. And as you can imagine, low point control and improving contact has been a strong theme throughout the week. It truly is a skill that you must develop if you want to play better golf. The best players pass this fundamental task all the time. The best players hit the ground after the ball almost without fail. Yet higher handicap golfers violate the rules of low point control very frequently. So what is it that you've got to focus your attention on when you're hitting to ensure that you can move your low point more forward and improve your contact? There's a great video of Mike Bennett, the other co-founder of Stack and Tilt, demonstrating a hitting drill where Mike hits from the ground 17 shots in a row from a white line painted onto the grass. And what he does is hit the ball first and the ground second every single time. Mike demonstrates the fundamental skill of low point control perfectly. And if you want to improve your game, you need to be able to do that as well. If you've played golf for any length of time, you'll have experienced the frustration of hitting fat shots, then hitting thin shots, then maybe topping the ball, a real range of contacts that really are inconsistent. And it's that inconsistency that stops you from playing to your potential. Why does the low point of the swing move around so much? Why is it that you cannot master this skill, this basic skill that truly is demonstrated by every great player? Learning to control the low point of your golf swing, learning to make better, more consistent contact will truly improve your golf game. So unless you're able to complete the task and the drill that I'm going to share with you today, you really shouldn't be working on any other part of your game at all. So I'd start with the intention to hit the ground after the ball. Having the low point more forward can begin just by recognizing that that's where it should be. And as you make practice swings, trying to hit the ground target side of this line that I've sprayed on the ground. It's so much easier to see this on the grass. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video this week while I'm standing on the grass driving range is to show you how clearly you can start to see where your club bottoms out. Equally, if you're getting it wrong, it's easier to see as well. So if you're fortunate enough to have a grass driving range, either spray or scratch a line in the ground with your foot, place that line right perpendicular to where you're standing and practice without a ball hitting the ground and trying to see where that club bottoms out. That would be the first thing I'd tell you to do. Now, as I say, on a driving range and on grass, it's a lot easier to see where that club's bottoming out. On an artificial driving range mat, it's a little bit less easy to see. However, if you're trying to pay attention to this, you should be able to get a decent grasp of where your club's bottoming out. This will, first of all, tell you if you have this problem in the first place. You may not need to fix this at all. But if you see your club bottoming out in the wrong place, it will tell you that this is something that you should be working on. So, of course, intention alone isn't going to change this for everyone. It may help one or two of you, but ultimately, you've got to change the technique and the movement of your body and the club in order to change where this club bottoms out. So the things you need to pay attention to in order to help you move your low point more forward, which is something that the majority of you watching this video will need to do, you'd start by putting more weight on your front leg. And you do that by moving your lower body, your pelvis, to the front, to forward of center. You can put as much weight on your front as you want to in order to start this, but just make sure you're moving your lower body forwards and not thrusting everything forward. Keep the center of your shoulders or your head, if you like, in the same place and move the lower body forward. Now, with more weight on my front foot, I'm more likely, more inclined to hit the ground further forward. I still may not do that every single time, but I would tell you having your weight forward would definitely help to move things in the right direction. So that would be the first place I'd start. If I was practicing and I wanted to move my low point more forward, I'd move my weight forward at setup. I'd try to keep it there and I'd go ahead and hit the ball. You can see from the white line on the ground and where the divot was, that was exactly what I was looking for. Ball first, ground second. That is control of the low point. And that's really what you want to look for. If you can't pass this test at least 90% of the time that you're trying it, you really shouldn't be moving too far away from this drill or this skill to anything else. I bring people back to this exercise all of the time because their game gets off track and their strike gets inconsistent because they forget how to move the weight or they forget how to control the radius. And so if you can't pass this test of hitting the ball first and the ground second, then you really only should be focusing on this drill and getting better at it. And the next thing I'd tell you to keep an eye on would be managing the radius of the swing, managing the shaft's relationship to this lead arm, and how you manage that will change and influence where the club hits the ground. What do I mean by that? Well, the best players, when they hit the ball, have a small amount of shaft lean. The shaft is still trailing the lead arm, and that helps them to hit the ground later because the radius of the swing lines up after the ball. The shaft is trailing the lead arm at the point of impact and only lines up with the lead arm just after impact. That's different in the highest handicap golfers who swing down, and even if they had their weight forward, can still crash this club into the ground, no control of the low point, because they allow the shaft to line up with the lead arm and for the radius to reach its inline condition too early. The radius is wider, the swing arc is wider, and the club's going to start bottoming out before the ball. Then that leads to all sorts of problems like fat shots, and then golfers who don't want to hit it fat start bending their elbows and breaking their wrists in order to raise the swing away from the ground. Topping and thinning in shoes. You can see how important it is to control not only the weight, but also the radius if you want to get this low point on lockdown. So the next thing I'd pay attention to, if putting the weight forward wasn't enough to improve your ball striking or your low point control, would be trying to keep the shaft of the golf club trailing the lead arm slightly, not just at impact, but continue that feeling of holding that alignment into the follow through. Okay, that's what I would practice. I would hit balls with my weight forward, and as I hit, I'd want to maintain the fact that the shaft still trails the lead arm and keep that feeling up to a point more or less where my arms are parallel to the ground. That's a great place for you to start, chipping out these balls, controlling the low point, and making perfect contact. Once again, perfect contact, ball first, ground second. That's what you're looking for. And as I say, the feedback you're going to get from the ground is going to be much greater than from a mat. You don't always know if you've hit slightly behind the ball on a mat because there's some forgiveness there in the AstroTurf that you don't get from the grass. So if you're fortunate enough to be able to practice off the grass, I would tell you to spray a line on the ground. Do this exercise every single time you practice. Master it. Become so good at it that when you stand over the ball on the golf course, there's no doubt that you're going to make good contact. And if there's no doubt you're going to make good contact, then the ball's going to fly pretty close to your expected distance, which means you'll be able to hit the ball closer to the hole and worry more about where to aim or how much the ball is curving, not worry about, am I going to top this thing along the ground or am I going to hit 6 inches behind the ball and fat it just in front of me? Another one, contact is exactly how I want it. I've made other videos on this topic, as I've mentioned before. One as recently as last week showed you how to film your swing from this camera angle and how to look for the weight forward and the shaft lean piece that I've discussed today. The video as recent as last week is the one that you should take a look at if you're interested in learning how to film your swing and what to look for if you want to get better at this drill. I've also made other videos in the past on this subject where I've filmed indoors and used training aids that can help you to get the feedback you need to see where the club's bottoming out. It is harder to see where the club bottoms out indoors, so there are training aids that you can use to help you to see this. All that being said, there is no excuse for not practicing this skill. This skill is fundamental to good golf. Every single golfer should watch this video and try this drill, and every single one of you should be trying to get better at this exercise until you really can't fail this task at all. Thank you for watching the video today. I hope you enjoyed the content. And if you did, I'd love it if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like more information about stack and tilt, I'll put a link in the description of this video, as well as some information about stack and tilt camp in a previous video I've shot, which tells you a little bit more about this great event. I'll be back in the UK this week and ready to give more in-person lessons at the new locations I'm teaching at Leatherhead Golf Club and also at Caddy Club in Fulham. I'd love to hear from you if you're in the UK and looking for an in-person lesson. Details of those lessons and services offered can be found on my website, which is also linked below. And as you continue your education on how to improve the skill of low point control, you're going to want to watch one of two videos next. It's either this one right here, which shows you how to film your swing from the front view and exactly what to look for in terms of weight forward and handle forward, or it's going to be this one right here if you want to learn how to practice indoors and get the feedback you need in order to master the low point control that you need.